Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Mining Inside, where we bring to you real conversations with leaders shaping the country. We explore the ever-evolving landscape of the mining industry and we uncover insights that matter to your career and our collective future. But before we go right in, I've got some incredible news to share with you. We are now officially a YouTube partner. None of that would have been possible without your incredible support. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you. If you are finding value in these conversations, please click on the subscribe button, give us a like, and drop us a comment. It truly goes a long way. And if you'd like to support us financially, you're welcome to do that. We'd greatly appreciate it. There is a thank you sign below. Use it to donate to the podcast. That really keeps the conversation going and it will ensure that we continue to give you quality content. Well, today we are joined by a truly special guest, the CEO of the State Diamond Trader, and we will be discussing the diamond industry, the complexities of beneficiation, and truly what it will take to grow the diamond industry in South Africa.
Nosi Mzamo is a seasoned leader who has risen through every level of the diamond industry with precision and expertise. She holds an honors degree in geology and an MBA, combining deep technical knowledge with strategic business leadership. Her career spans geologist, project manager, planning manager, mine manager services, and managing executive, building comprehensive insight at each stage. Today, she stands at the helm of the State Diamond Trader as its CEO. In this episode, we explore the diamond industry, complexities of beneficiation, the market challenges in this space, and what the future holds for diamonds in our country.
Nosi, welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Sure. Before we even go deep, your organization was recently audited and it was a clean audit. Look, when I saw that, I was like, yes. The State Diamond Trader. Well done for that. And I was truly so happy and proud. Maybe your reflection on that.
Thank you very much. When I joined the entity, I said to my colleagues, it's important that we become one of the exemplarily state-owned entities. Absolutely. In terms of how we run this organization, especially in our country with all the challenges that are faced by state-owned entities. So for me, it is important that we adhere to the PFMA, we put controls in place. And what is important for me is that we continuously improve in how we conduct our business and how we conduct our finances. And it is actually our second year that we have been on a clean audit.
I was so happy. Trust me, I was just so excited. Look, you are a geologist by profession. Maybe let's start with your personal background, where and how you were raised, and just up to the point where you chose to do geology and joining mining.
Nosi is a girl from Tanzania, which is how I refer to myself. Sure. And it is very important for me to emphasize that I'm a girl from Tanzania. Absolutely. Because it's to give that young girl growing up in Tanzania, growing up in Tzaneen, growing up in Soweto, to say, Black child, it's possible. Your dreams are possible. You are not your background. You are not where you come from. So I'm a daughter to Reverend Mzamo and my mom, who are both late and feel very sad that they are not here to witness this success of their daughter. But I believe that I am who I am because of their prayers. So I'm coming from a praying family, and Christianity centers who I am. Growing up in Tanzania, I went to University of Fort Hare to do my geology, and it was really out of interest. I didn't even know that there was a course called geology, because when we were growing up, we had less career guidance in where we come from. But out of interest, geology, it became my love. And to a point that I went to Nelson Mandela University to do my honors degree. Upon completing my honors degree, then I found myself in the diamond industry. My first job was in a diamond mining company. and spent over 9 years working as a geologist in that field, and later joined the Industrial Development Corporation. And because of my experience, then I funded the State Diamond Trader
through IDC.
through IDC. So with the first funding of State Diamond Trader, I was at IDC at the mining business unit. And because I'm a geologist, I went back to the mines again, and later found myself at Mintech, which is a state-owned entity that does research on mineral technologies, on mineral processing. I stayed there for over 13 years. I spent half my career at Mintech managing a mineralogy division. And while I was at mineralogy, because diamonds love me, follows me, so... So at Mintech, we had a research that we were running on diamond fingerprinting. So diamond fingerprinting is to ascertain if diamonds are confiscated anywhere in the world. Can you say, are these diamonds from South Africa? Are these diamonds from Angola? Are these diamonds from Botswana? So that was the research that my team was conducting when I was at Mintech. And being part of that research then, we were part of the Kimberley Process South African team. So, and when this opportunity of being a CEO of State Diamond Trader came in, so I bring all that valuable experience of understanding diamonds. And I always say, I feel that my career has taken a full circle, because I started as a diamond geologist and then went into funding diamonds and went into researching diamonds, and now I'm trading diamonds.
Sure. Look, when somebody thinks diamond, the first thing in your mind is mining, and you see DBS, you see a jewelry shop.
Yes.
But nobody ever really thinks of this diamond trading. Maybe talk to us about what the State Diamond Trader does. Who are your clients? Who are your suppliers? The entire value chain.
Okay, a State Diamond Trader, let me emphasize, is a state-owned entity.
Sure.
And people get surprised that there is such a state-owned entity. But yes, State Diamond Trader has been around. On 1st of November will be 18 years old. And it was a childbirth by then Minister of Minerals and Mining, Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka. So this is her baby. So State Diamond Trader is by law legislated under the Diamond Act of South Africa to buy and sell diamonds, and for the purpose of transforming the diamond industry. So is to make sure that we make diamonds available to your historically disadvantaged South Africans who primarily will have not been able to have access to buy these goods from your big diamond producers because of the stringent rules to become the clients of those companies. So we then make sure that then we buy these diamonds, sell them to our clients, who then cut and polish and then sell these diamonds as polished goods. We also ensure that we give them access to international markets. Which there's shows like Hong Kong show, where then they will take their polished goods and go and showcase them. So at the Hong Kong show, we will have a South African pavilion where then it's a South African diamonds that are being sold there, and everyone loves South African diamonds.
Yes. Are you then funded by the state?
We are not funded by the state, never been funded by the state. State Diamond Trader makes its own money. It's a business that is running like any other business.
Then how are you a state-owned entity? I think just clarify the state-owned part, if they're not funding you.
Okay, so State Diamond Trader, it reports to the Minister of Minerals and Petroleum Resources. So by its mandate, it is legislated, as I said, and it was a baby that was formed by the interest of government of South Africa to say we want to transform this industry. We want beneficiation to happen in South Africa. So State Diamond Trader was formed under the thinking of the government.
Look, the diamond industry has evolved quite drastically, and we would have seen South Africa transition quite a lot. I think we used to be in the top 5 in the world, and you've seen us go down. Throughout your journey, what significant changes have you seen?
The significant changes that we're currently seeing first is consumer preferences. So you find out then consumers, they would like to know where my diamonds are coming from, so traceability. So consumers want to know, are my diamonds mined ethically? And also they were not from conflict areas. So traceability becomes very important, and how the diamonds have been ethically mined. And we have also seen the introduction of lab-grown diamonds, which taking a part of the market of your natural diamonds. So those the revolution that we are currently seeing in the diamond industry. And issue of geopolitics as well. They've played a critical challenge in the supply chain of diamonds. So those are the issues or the revolutions that we're currently seeing in the diamond industry.
Let's touch a bit on the geopolitical side of things. I think geopolitics have got a huge influence on the diamond industry in South Africa. And I'm looking at your Russia, your Israel. These are quite big players in the industry. What influence has that had on the South African industry, and also thinking of your sanctions that we've seen coming from the US?
Okay, so if I talk about the diamond industry first, how it's structured. So you have mining that is happening at certain regions. So you've got Russia as the biggest supplier, followed by Botswana, and then you've got Angola coming third. You've got we have dropped now to number 6. You've got Lesotho, you've got Namibia, you've got Zimbabwe. So those are the main players. I think about 85% of the diamonds come from these regions that I have mentioned. And then you will then have countries like India, which then specifically specializing in cutting and polishing of diamonds. So India then is the biggest importer of diamonds, where then they do the cutting and polishing of diamonds. Then you have consumer countries, which then USA, which plays a huge role. And then with the current wars then now that we are seeing, so there's been the G7 countries, where then they said they will not take diamonds that are coming from Russia. So this is where then the impact of geopolitics then come in. And then you have country like India, because of the BRICS umbrella. So then countries like India then stood up and said, we will take diamonds from Russia, we will take the oil from Russia. And then it made then an uncomfortable situation with the G7 countries, where then you have your USA, who is the biggest a consumer of polished diamonds. And that then came, then they said, we will not take diamonds from Russia. And now you find then issue of certification, where then European Union, then they said, we will introduce a note where we want to know where these diamonds are coming from. So each and every diamond carries what we call a Kimberley Process Certificate, which is a certification scheme that says these diamonds comes from a conflict-free zone. But then on that certification certificate, that each diamond carry. It will then say which country are the diamonds are coming from. So the European Union then emphasized that they want it to be clear where are the diamonds, what's the country of origin. So that then it disrupted the supply chain, because then there's this challenge now with the diamonds from Russia that your G7 countries, they say we don't want them. So then the issue of geopolitics, then it disrupts. And then because then India was very strong to say we support Russia, then the US sanctioned them and hit with tariffs. So this then it causes all these tension in terms of then the supply chain, and why we are finding ourselves now in a lot of challenges that are now hitting the diamond industry, which is based on the geopolitics.
Sure. Looking at the traceability, particularly in South Africa, are we sitting with some ethical sourcing issue of diamonds in this country? Definitely
not.
Sure.
So we have what we call South African Diamond and Precious Metals Regulator. So the regulator, we call them regulator in short. So the regulator ensures that each and every diamond that leaves South Africa is a Kimberley process compliant. So every diamond that leaves this country, it is issued with the KPC certificate. So we don't have issues of ethical sourcing. We as South Africa actually are the founders of Kimberley process, hence the name Kimberley. It was formed in the city Kimberley.
Hi there, I hope you are enjoying the conversation. If you have not yet joined the Mining Insight community, please do so by clicking on the subscribe button. Would love to grow this community with you. Also, we love hearing from you. Drop us a comment and let's keep engaging. Enjoy the rest of the conversation. Sure. You are very big on natural diamonds.
Yes.
Look,
yes.
I think the first time I met you, one of the things you made clear is your position regarding natural diamonds and, of course, over the lab grown. What have we seen the lab grown do to the diamond industry, particularly the ones that are natural? And I mean, why your firm stance on natural diamonds?
My firm stance on natural diamonds, first of all, we are a country that is producing natural diamonds. And natural diamonds, they provide jobs for people of our country. They also provide tax for our government to be able to execute their government mandate. And also in communities where diamonds are mined, there's a benefit to those communities. You'll find out that there's social labor plans that those mines are doing for the communities. So for me, natural diamonds, they have a lot of impact in terms of the economy of our country.
Sure.
So it is very important as State Diamond Trader that we are the advocates of natural diamonds by the virtue that our country produces natural diamonds. The issue of lab-grown diamonds, they've taken about 10% of the natural diamond market. But in terms of marketing, we all know that consumers have preferences. And I think for me, it is very important that we market natural diamonds.
Absolutely,
and then we go and get our niche market. Everyone, they have their preferences. And for me, I want to market natural diamonds so that the consumer can understand the difference between a natural diamond and a lab-grown diamond. A natural diamond has value. It's an investment. When you buy your natural diamond, you get a certificate that says it's a natural diamond. But when you buy a lab-grown diamond, once you leave the shop, the value is gone. You cannot resell it. But your natural diamond, you can take your diamond and go back and get value out of it. Hence, it carries that certificate. When we were in Hong Kong, there was an advert, a big advert that says, we will sell you the gold and the diamond is free. buy, which is your lab-grown diamond, because they don't have value. And consumers don't understand this. They go and buy this big stone, but they are forgetting one thing, that there's no value out of it. The minute you leave the shop, the value is gone.
But an ordinary consumer, do they even ask that question, or is it a matter of now starting to educate them that there's this and that? I mean, I can imagine somebody excited to get diamond. I don't think they go, is it natural? Is it lab grown? How do we get people to differentiate that and even start the conversation?
I think it is important that we invest in marketing of natural diamonds. Okay. I think when we grew up, I mean, we used to see adverts that says diamonds are forever. Yes. So I think we need to go back to that phase where we knew that diamonds are forever. And I always say, if you get married and your husband-to-be proposes to you, will you want him to propose to you with a real diamond or a lab-grown diamond? Sure. And for me, I call them fake. So then if you are proposing to me with a fake diamond, then you're going to get fake love.
Okay, that's quite deep. Look, looking at all the challenges that exist in the diamond industry, how does the industry support, and how do we actually revitalize the diamond industry for South Africa?
South Africa has been mining diamonds for over 100 years. Yes. That on its own, it's an added advantage for the country. We understand the industry. We have the skills in the country. Sure. I think most important for me is that we become the hub of the African continent. Sure. And I think we need to utilize where we are positioned as a country. And we need to ensure, I mean, as South Africa, we've got the infrastructure, we've got the OR Tambo, the airport, which then can make sure that in terms of supply chain, then the logistics, we've got logistics to move anywhere in the world. Sure. But most importantly, the biggest hinder, which we always ask ourselves, is why Dubai? Why did Dubai surpass South Africa? We need to look at our taxes in the country. Sure. We need to incentivize the people that are beneficiating diamonds in South Africa. We need to make sure that the business environment is conducive enough to be able to be this diamond hub for Africa.
Sure. Talking about beneficiation, what opportunities exist in beneficiation, particularly in the diamond industry, and are we seeing that grow?
There's been challenges in the diamond industry in the past 2.5 years, but we as State Diamond Trader, we do training. We got a program where we call Enterprise Development Program, where we take youth and women and make sure that we give them skills of cutting and polishing, skills of diamond evaluation, business skills, so that they can be able to run their own businesses. Because of the challenges I was telling you about of tax incentives in the country, we've seen the businesses going down in terms of numbers. And one of the biggest responsibility for State Diamond Trader is to ensure that we bring that number up in terms of ensuring that there's cutting and polishing done here in the country.
Sure. Look, you spoke a bit about the Hong Kong work that happened. Maybe let's reflect on the fact that this year we're celebrating 10 years with Hong Kong celebration. What is that about, and what are we learning from that, and what are we absorbing for South Africa on that?
Okay, Hong Kong show is where diamondiers take their cut and polished diamonds to sell them. So as State Diamond Trader, we take our clients, and where we have a pavilion, a South African pavilion, where we showcase South African diamonds. And State Diamond Trader, one of its responsibility is to ensure that we give our clients access to international markets. So Hong Kong then being a show that State Diamond Trader has participated in for over 10 years now. So this year we're celebrating ourselves as State Diamond Trader participating at the Hong Kong show, taking South African diamonds to the world.
And what value has that brought to the country?
A lot. I will just make an example for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
So last year we took about 10 clients and they made sales of about 6 million rand. And you know, very surprisingly, this year, with all the challenges that we are facing in the diamond industry, we only took 5 clients this year and we almost doubled what we sold last year. So this year the sales amounted to about 11 million rands.
Sure, that's quite great. And you've sort of tried as the State Diamond Trader to emulate that in South Africa. Maybe talk to us about why you did that and what you've seen come out of the jewelry celebration that you hosted in South Africa.
So this year in February, alongside the Mining Indaba, we launched the first ever South African Diamond Show, where we were showcasing South African diamonds mined in South Africa. And why we did that was we wanted to make sure that we create a market here in South Africa, so that while the world is here attending the Mining Indaba, they can be able to come and buy South African diamonds. And we thought, let's ride on the brand of the Mining Indaba, which is a brand that has been around for over 31 years. So that was a successful event. And we are going to continuously do it every second year. So we'll skip next year and we'll have it again in 2027. And we have already started with the planning. And very interestingly, while I was in Hong Kong, people were asking me about the diamond show. So that's how then we have been, like we can say, we have been successful, because already we have people that are looking forward, and some of them want to participate in bringing their diamonds here in South Africa. So we are creating a market here in South Africa.
The Hong Kong one happens annually.
Yes.
Why do you want to do it biannually? Why don't you do it every year?
We currently have challenges financially, so we will definitely make sure that it becomes an annual event. But so so we want to make sure that when the diamond industry picks up, we are then ready as well. But it will be an annual event.
It will get there. Okay.
It will get there.
Sure. Let's look at some of the work that you've done to support the previously disadvantaged, and I just want you to pick out the ones you're most proud of, because you know, sometimes as people we give back, but we never really reflect on how much we've given back. We never really talk about it, and I just want you to touch on some of the ones that you are very proud of.
We've got a few clients that have been doing very well, and a few names that I can brag about. We've got Nungu Diamonds. I think everyone knows about Nungu Diamonds. And we've got Litsiki Diamonds. Litsiki Diamond has been one of State Diamond Trader beneficiaries, where we've seen him growing, and he became one of the first Black South Africans to be a site holder of De Beers. And to be a site holder of De Beers, you need to meet certain strict rules. So it's one of the success stories of State Diamond Trader. And we also have Togo Diamonds, which is Mam Togo. Mam Togo is one of State Diamond Trader clients that we have seen her grow through time, and we are making sure that we support her business.
Sure, that's beautiful. Let's look at some of the investments that have come through to partner and work with the State Diamond Trader, and particularly fintech. Fine Star. Yes, sorry, Fine Star. Yeah. What value has that brought not only to the State Diamond Trader but to the country?
Fine Star recently opened their factory here at the special economic zone in September. And what was very important is the amount of investment that they have done in the country, which they've invested about 300 million rands. And this is based on the state of the art of the equipment that they are bringing. So that investment, it is talking to innovation, is talking to use of technology in cutting and polishing diamonds. Most importantly as well, Fine Star, they are bringing in skills development into the country, because they may be their main factory is based in Surat in India. For them to open this factory in South Africa, they are bringing the skills that they have in India here in South Africa. So, and also there's employment. So there's job creation. Currently they have about 49 employees, but they are planning to bring that up to 90. So we're also seeing job creation. And this is very important to local beneficiation of South African diamonds.
Sure. Looking forward, and how does the future of diamonds for South Africa look like 5 to 10 years?
I have a very serious conversation with my colleague there at the Council of Geoscience, where they are mandated to conduct exploration in South Africa. My conversation with them is that we need to invest in exploration of diamonds. We've seen ourselves as a country dropping from position 5 to position 6. And the main contributor to that is that we have not seen any new mines coming in. So we are seeing a decrease in terms of production of the country. So we need to invest in exploration so that we can bring in new mines. But I've also had a conversation with one of the biggest a diamond producer in the country, which is Petra Diamonds. They are currently investing in capital projects, and in the next 2 years they're saying we might see an increase in the diamond production based on their investments. So very importantly then, from where I come from in terms of promoting beneficiation, is to make sure that we do skilling, we train people, and I would like to see more factories being opened in the country.
Sure. Talking about your passion for beneficiation, what ratios are we looking at on what we are beneficiating and what we are exporting? And is that promising?
Currently, the production, 15% of the diamonds that are mined in South Africa can be beneficiated in the country based on the quality of the diamonds that are mined in. But what we are currently doing as State Diamond Trader, we're trying to close that gap. So we are currently in discussions with the Botswana government, so that then we can be able to source diamonds from Botswana that can be cut and polished here in South Africa. So when we go to Botswana, we'll be buying diamonds that are polishable goods.
But what does legislation expect?
No, it does allow us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Look, thank you so much for this conversation. I mean, we put a spotlight on so many commodities, but diamond has not received that much, and I think it deserves so much. And thank you so much for bringing that to light.
Thank you so much. It's time for the diamonds of South Africa to sparkle and shine.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The success of the diamond industry does not only rely on the favorable geopolitical conditions, but on leaders who intentionally and strategically position diamonds for success, just like Nozi and her team. That's all we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining. Bye-bye and God bless.